Now, we've just been given a snapshot of what prosecutors say is footage from the alleged incident involving Gucci Mane and Pooh Shiesty. And I'm sure most of you guys already know the basics of the story. A few months ago, news broke that Pooh Shiesty, his father, rapper Big 30, and several other people were facing a federal case connected to an alleged incident involving rapper Gucci Mane. This all centered around Pooh Shiesty being released from his 1017 contract, or him wanting to get released from it. And while Pooh Shiesty has been fighting this case, we're now getting an actual look into what prosecutors say was captured on video inside the studio. Now, to be clear, this is not the full video. This is a screenshot, i.e. a snapshot from a court filing. But it gives us a snapshot of what the government claims the footage shows. So if you're looking at the screen right now, this is the part everybody's talking about. On the left, prosecutors say you can see Pooh Shiesty's father, Lontrell Williams Sr., standing inside the recording studio holding a document. That document is connected to the release from Pooh Shiesty's 1017 contract. Now, there's actually more context behind that particular document, okay? In a previous court filing, investigators claimed that on the day of the alleged offense, Pooh Shiesty's father was seen on video going into a Staples in Frisco, Texas. They say his rented Buick was seen parking near the front of the store, and then his father allegedly went straight to the copy and printer machines. Investigators also said they obtained a receipt showing a transaction happened at those printers around the same time he was seen there. And because of the timing, the location, and the fact that this happened shortly before the incident, they also said that they believed Pooh Shiesty and his father went to the Staples to print this particular contractual release that was later presented to Gucci Mane. So when we look at this particular screenshot, they're basically saying the same alleged document is now right there in the room. And then in the middle, you can see a man named DeMarcus Glover. Now, DeMarcus Glover is one of the co-defendants in this case. And according to the government, while the situation was happening inside the studio, he was seen standing near the recording room holding what they describe as a Draco. So obviously this was not a situation where people were just standing around talking about paperwork. One person, Pooh Shiesty's father, was holding the release document. Another person was near the door with a firearm. And then Gucci Mane was inside the room being recorded against his will. And then on the right side of the screenshot, they of course identified RD, and the initials are on the screen. It is Gucci Mane's initials. Gucci's real name is Roderick Davis. Now, in that particular frame, they're saying that the footage right here is being recorded while allegedly releasing Pooh Shiesty from his contract. So this is basically the moment of the kidnapping / the robbery. And then that brings us to rapper Big 30, because he's the person who's recording this particular footage. Because Pooh Shiesty wasn't just satisfied with getting the written release, he basically wanted Gucci Mane to be filmed. And then they say Big 30 recorded Gucci on his cell phone while saying that Pooh Shiesty is dropped from 1017. So this was very much planned, okay? They had printed the paperwork beforehand. Once they got Gucci inside the studio, and once the document was handled, they still wanted this on video. So that's what we're seeing right now on the screen. And of course, don't think I mentioned it, but I'm pretty sure it's obvious, but that right there is Pooh Shiesty. As you can see, he's all up in a frame, posted up right inside the video evidence against him. So these still images right here, they do tell us the story that they are alleging. And these images are, of course, going to be used to support their version of what happened inside that studio, as far as the prosecution laying out this case against them, right? So now it becomes a lot easier to understand how they're going to tell this story in court. I mean, the case already looked very serious on paper, but once they have the visuals connected to it, obviously it is no bueno for Pooh Shiesty here, okay? So just a few things here. First of all, I'll be completely honest with you. When I first heard that there was an alleged video connected to this incident, I didn't really think that was real because the whole situation already sounded absurd enough. We know why this started, but here's the obvious problem, okay? Any contract / agreement or release paper that someone signs under pressure, fear, or force is not gonna hold up the way you think it is. So if the allegation is that Gucci Mane was surrounded, intimidated, robbed, or forced into releasing Pooh Shiesty from his contract, then that already defeats the entire purpose of trying to get the release in the first place. And that's what makes this thinking here just like so crazy, because in Pooh Shiesty's alleged logic, it's almost like, okay, I want to get released from this record label, 1017. So instead of handling it through lawyers, managers, negotiations, or any normal business route, I'm going to pull up to the studio, bring the release paperwork, have a bunch of dudes around Gucci Mane with guns, enforce the issue, and then record Gucci Mane saying, I'm released. And I just want you to like sit with that for a second, okay? Because if that's what the government is saying happened, that is one of the worst plans I've ever heard, okay? Because the video would not make the release stronger. The video would make the criminal case against you stronger. And that's the part that just like blows my mind. Because if somebody says, I only signed this because people had guns around me, that doesn't help your business situation. That destroys your business situation and creates a whole new legal nightmare. And that's basically what happened here, right? Or that's the allegations that Pooh Shiesty is up against. So they're alleging that there was a document, they're alleging that there were guns, and they're alleging that Gucci was being recorded. And then this is the particular video that was captured in the studio, right? So when they're saying that Pooh Shiesty and the others are facing the possibility of serious federal time, this is why. We're talking life in prison, by the way. Based on what we know so far, I mean, this is a very planned situation. And the fact that this was recorded as if that was going to protect them somehow, I think that's insane. Because in that case, this video is not going to protect them, it's going to bury them. Now, just for context, this particular document is not just some random screenshot floating around online. According to XXL, this comes from a June 24 government filing in Pooh Shiesty's federal case. And the reason this filing exists is because Pooh Shiesty's new attorney was trying to get him released on bond. And then this is the response to that. And in that response, prosecutors were basically arguing against him being released while the case is still going on. That's why they brought up these details. So they weren't just telling the story for no reason. They were trying to show the judge why they believe Pooh Shiesty should stay detained. And then these screenshots, or what they say is the video of the robbery/kidnapping connected to the case, was included in those documents. And also another thing they did bring up is that they believe that Pooh Shiesty leads a Memphis street gang of roughly 100 members, and that he can summon an armed entourage at his will, which is another reason why they're basically saying, yeah, please don't let this guy out. So as of right now, nobody has seen the full video. I don't have it. What we have is screenshots from a court filing that prosecutors say came from the footage. But even with that said, here's the thing, right? Number one, the fact that this footage even exists, that's crazy. But also the fact that these images are even being included, that makes it a very big deal. Because it tells you that the government is not relying on witness statements or just paperwork. They're saying that they have visuals from inside the studio. And they're going to use those visuals to show what they believe happened that day. So since this is an active federal case, that's why the video hasn't been released yet. So this footage will probably be used at trial. It could involve witnesses, it could involve other victims, because it wasn't just Gucci Mane inside, it was also his security team, probably going to show all the weapons and a bunch of other stuff they're going to use against him. And by the way, the trial is going down in 2027. So this is going to be a very long legal process. And the reason why this is going to be such a hard case for Pooh Shiesty to fight is because of what they have. Aside from just this video right here of the actual crime, they had surveillance, phone evidence, screenshots, timestamps, paperwork, weapons, and multiple people allegedly involved. And that kind of brings me to Gucci Mane, because in the middle of all this, I've seen people accuse Gucci Mane of snitching. And I'm going to be honest, I think that whole thought process is just like stupid. No matter what Gucci Mane's past is, you know, this ain't 2006 Gucci Mane. This is Gucci Mane in 2026. He's a businessman. He's a husband. He's a label owner. He went to that studio thinking he was walking into a business meeting, but it was not a normal business meeting Gucci Mane was walking into. It was a setup with multiple people, guns, a contract release, a robbery, and kidnapping allegations. And the person behind it, allegedly, is somebody who is signed to him. So I don't understand how people look at that and turn Gucci Mane into the bad guy. I don't know exactly what Gucci Mane did or did not do for Pooh Shiesty while he was locked up. I don't know exactly what his contract entails or how he felt about it. I don't know if he looked at his paperwork and thought, man, these numbers don't look right. Am I getting played? How come he's getting all this money from my music? Or should I say music, like they do in Memphis? That could have been his mindset. But even if that was his mindset, that still doesn't explain this. I mean, if you feel like your contract is unfair, you get a lawyer. You get your team. You negotiate. You sue. You go public if that's really what you want to do. But pulling up with a bunch of dudes with guns and forcing somebody to release you from that contract, that's not business. That is the streets being dragged into a situation where the streets should have never been involved. And that's the bigger point here. Guys like Pooh Shiesty don't really realize that you can't mix the streets with business, and you can't mix the business with streets. Whatever you want to say in your music, whatever image you want to sell, that's one thing. But if there's no separation between the character, the lifestyle, the pride, and your actual real life decisions, that is how people get caught up. You can take a man out of the streets, but you can't take the streets out of the man. And I think that saying really applies here, because it's not just about coming from a rough environment. A lot of people come from very rough environments. Some of y'all probably do, right? The issue is when somebody makes it out, gets money, gets fame, gets opportunity, and still carries the worst part of that environment into rooms where business is supposed to happen. That's what really ruins everything. When you are in Pooh Shiesty's position, you've been blessed enough to make it out, which means you have to understand that you're free, you're rich, you're well known, you can travel, you can do what you want to do, you can wake up in your own bed, you can be around women. You're not inside a concrete box surrounded by nothing but men telling you when to eat, when to sleep, and when to move. So why would you put yourself in a position where all that can get taken away from you for no reason? That's the part that just like, I don't understand. Because as someone who's listened to a lot of Pooh Shiesty's music, I mean, he does make some good ass music, right? I can't even sit here and act like I'm shocked by the fact that he did this, honestly. Pooh Shiesty has this popular line from his song FDO where he basically says his grandma told him to keep his grass low the whole time he's the snake, which I think is kind of ironic. But why would you make it out, become one of the hottest street rappers in a game, survive prison, get another chance, and then allegedly put yourself in a situation where you might never come home again? That's insane. And that's really the tragedy here. It's not just a case, it's not just footage, but the fact that all this could have been avoided if business was handled like business instead of trying to handle business like the streets. That's the part that I'm a little concerned about. And honestly, I wish I could understand the mindset behind these actions, but being real with you, I don't even think there's a lot of thought behind any of this. When people talk about a real crash out, this is the type of situation they're talking about. And I'm generally wondering what the full video even looks like, because if I had to guess, I don't think this is some kind of long, full-length video where everything is perfectly documented from beginning to end. I think it's more like one of those short clips, maybe 15, maybe 20 seconds, something where Gucci Mane is surrounded, the people in that room are standing around him with guns and shit, right? And then he's being told to acknowledge that Pooh Shiesty is now released from the contract. I wouldn't be surprised if the video is something short where Gucci Mane is being recorded. Now, to be clear, I haven't seen the full video, so I'm just guessing, but I'm thinking something like, I hereby release Lontrell Williams Jr. from his contract, or whatever the exact wording was. But again, that's just me trying to imagine what the government or what the prosecution is describing here. I have not seen the full video, nor do I have access to it. So because they have this alleged video, depending on how extensive it is, it's going to be very hard to create some type of reasonable doubt around the story. Like, let's just say if his legal team said, hey, the guns were not being used in the way the prosecution is describing. Well, hey, we have a video now, right? So once you introduce the video, that becomes a completely different issue, because now we're actually going to be able to see what's happening. We're going to see who was standing there. We're going to see the actual intimidation that they were describing. And then we also see Gucci Mane's body language in this particular snapshot. What was Gucci Mane doing in the footage? Was he just standing around, or was he showing that, hey, I'm really afraid? So we're going to be able to see the energy in the room. And depending on how much of the footage we actually see, it's going to be very hard to defend it. And that's why the whole Gucci Mane is snitching conversation misses the point. Because honestly, Gucci Mane doesn't really need to say anything, because this footage is going to speak for him, really. Keep in mind that this is a federal case. So they have video, paperwork, surveillance, receipts, phone evidence, and multiple people allegedly tied to the same chain of events. And that's what makes this so dangerous for Pooh Shiesty. I guess we're going to see how this plays out though. But what do you guys think about this foolishness? Y'all let me know in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace, I'm out.